After I finish reading some books, usually I just go on to the next one and don't really think about the book that I just finished, unless it's really good. And even those books, I think about them maybe a week or so after, and then I move on. But this list of 5 books are books that I've read even a few years ago, and they still live rent-free in my brain. I literally can't stop thinking about them, and they've almost molded me to who I am today, and definitely make me realize why I love reading in the first place. Now, the first book is a book that I actually read this year, and I didn't really think much of it. I heard a lot of good recommendations, but I didn't think it was going to be a book that would resonate with me, and I was pleasantly surprised. This book was an easy 5-star for me. It had everything you could possibly want: sisterhood, advice, humor, some heartbreak, and growth overall. And that book is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. Now, I know I've mentioned this book a few times before this year, but I literally cannot get it out of my brain. I literally think about it all the time. And as I mentioned before, I have recommended this book to so many women in my life. Now, this is actually a memoir about Dolly Alderton's life. She used to be a journalist. She just writes about her experience growing up, dating, love, friendship, heartbreak, and everything in between. And you would think that's something that's pretty mundane or not really something that's going to grab your attention, but the way that she writes it is not like anything I've ever experienced, and I know that if you are a woman in the world, you would love this book. Her humor and wit is unmatched, and not only that, she somehow balances heartbreak really well with humor and like comfort. So sometimes if she says something really traumatic or she mentions something that really affected her, the next page will be a recipe, and it's usually something that plays off the name of the story that you just heard before. So like heartbreak mac and cheese or something like that, and it's so adorable, and it's definitely something that will stand the test of time because these life lessons are things that you definitely need to know just as a person in general. But she gives you these life lessons and these hard discussions in such a humorous way where it doesn't feel like you're just being lectured at. It feels like almost like a big sister guiding you through life, and it just feels so comforting. And I feel like it's a book that especially women in their 20s need to be reading because it will guide you and help you so much. She somehow talks about really minute details about the female experience that you just need to be in the know to know. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be at that age, you need to be at that time in your life, you need to be experiencing the same things to understand the gravity of what she's teaching you, and she does such a good job. Now, I know this isn't the only book that she's written, and I've heard that her other books are really good as well, but this is one of the books that she first wrote, and it really made her stand out as an author. So I definitely recommend this, and then I recommend reading the rest of her backlist. But this book in particular just left me so awed. I remember when I was finishing it, I had tears in my eyes. Like, it was just so beautiful, and I told myself when I finished the book, you know what, we need to read this book next year to see where we're at, to see if there's like new lessons, new things that we understand, or some things that we didn't understand before, but now we have a new take on it when I read it in the future, and things like that. So that book is definitely by far one of the best books I've read, and something that continues to live rent-free in my brain. The next one up is actually a romance, and this is also a book that I read this year, and it actually came out this year as well, and that is Funny Story by Emily Henry. Now, if you guys have been here for even a second, you do know that Emily Henry has not been an author that I generally like. I did read Book Lovers, and I think I read Beach Read as well, and those are 2 books that I just rated 3 out of 5 stars. They weren't really profound to me. I didn't really enjoy them, to be honest, but again, I did read those while doing 24-hour reading vlogs, so I can't really decipher if it was my fault or if it was just her writing in general. But this is the first Emily Henry book that I read that was an immediate 5-star for me. Not only did I enjoy it, but it was literally a 5-star. Now, Funny Story is just such an insane plot line. It's so crazy. But the book is about Daphne. She recently just got engaged to her now fiance Peter, and she moves with him to his hometown of Michigan. He lives like in a lake town, and his whole family is around. And so she moves there not really knowing anyone, but just trusting the love that she has built with this man. And then he comes back from his bachelor party, and he realizes, you know what? I don't actually love you. I actually love my best friend Petra. So you have about a week or so to get out of my house and figure out your own life, and I'm gonna go marry this girl, basically. And so you watch her kind of see her entire life unravel. She's trying to figure out who she is, because not only has she kind of clinged on to Peter's life, but now she's left with just the bare minimum of her life, and she's trying to figure out who she is while she's navigating this new town. And now, because she is working as a librarian, she has nowhere to go. She can't afford the house that she was in, and obviously she's not going to stay there. So she moves into the only place that she can afford, which just happens to be Petra's ex-boyfriend, Noah. And so Noah and Daphne move in together. They're both heartbroken. They both try to avoid each other, but they're the only 2 people basically in the world world, who understand the pain that they're going through. And while this summer starts, they try to avoid each other, as I mentioned, but one day they're both just so sad that they decide to be sad together. And then from there, they develop a friendship. And while they're developing this friendship over the summer, they're like, you know what, let's fake date, or like let our pictures allude to dating, because we know that our ex-fiancés or ex-partners are watching. And so they do this, and slowly but surely those fake feelings turn into real ones, and you just watch their love story from there. And wow. First of all, I don't even know how Emily Henry thought of such a complicated plot, and not only think about such a complicated plot, but actually execute it. That is so hard to do, and she killed it. I don't have a single complaint about this book. I thought it was so well done. I thought it was so funny. I thought it was so realistic, and just, it was honestly perfect to me. There's not many romances that are perfect to me, but this one really goes up there with Love and Other Words for me, which is a high praise. And it's also so astonishing for me because not only did I never think I was gonna like one of her books, but the fact that I love one of her books is just so crazy to me. And it kind of makes me want to read some more of her books. I just don't know which one I should read after, just because Funny Story set the bar so high and I don't want to be disappointed by something else. But I did hear that the other book that she wrote this year, I can't remember what it's called. It's the pink one. I'll put it here. I heard that one was really good as well. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm scared. Let me know in the comments below if I should read that one or if I should wait for her newer book. Anyway, this one is a must read for every romance girly. It just has the perfect humor. It has character development. So much really rich character development. There's a bit of heartbreak as well, but I love how this main character is not just about love. It's about self-discovery, trying to figure out who she is as a person outside of somebody else, outside of a partner, and just realizing her own flaws and trying to grow from there. And it's just so beautiful. And Noah, gosh. Noah is literally Daphne's opposite. He's so chill. He's a bit chaotic, to be honest, but they complement each other so well. And just seeing him fall in love with her too, chef's kiss. The only complaint that I did have in this book, I remember now, is that I wish I had Noah's point of view sometimes. It's only from Daphne's point of view the entire book. And so that's a little bit, I feel like it's not even just sad. It's just like a missed opportunity, just because he was so wonderful. I would have loved to be in his head for just even a minute, even a chapter. So that's my only like takeaway from that. But besides that, the book is incredible. I would still rate it a 5-star. It's so good that I definitely would want to read this again. The next book up is actually a series, and that is the Harry Potter series. Now, if y'all remember, this was my first time ever reading it. As a child, I never watched any of the movies. I never read any of the books. I was genuinely probably one of the last people on earth who never heard about the story, who never looked into it at all, who literally went in blind. And when I am telling you, this series changed my life. Now, let me just put this out here. I read it for free on Kindle Unlimited. I just wanted to read it because I've heard nothing but good things, and I just wanted to see if it was something that was worth the hype. And I am telling you, it did something for my inner child. It was almost like therapy. And I read all of them back to back. So for like 2 months out of this year, I believe it was February and March, I just was completely in this world. And I've never had such a wonderful experience reading. It genuinely brought me back to my time as a child when I was reading the Hunger Games series, when I was reading the Twilight series, and I was so engulfed in the books. I used to get in trouble for not putting my books down when I read and when there was family time and stuff like that. Like, I literally was hooked. And books haven't done that to me since I was a kid, since I was in high school and middle school and stuff like that. So the fact that this book series had the power to do that to me again, I was literally in awe. And it's just such an incredible story. Like, the twists and turns, I never ever really like figured out any of them. And not only that, the camaraderie, the character development, the plot was so insane, so intricate, and it just was so pure and beautiful, and like, I just had such a wonderful time. I honestly, when I finished it, I felt like a real genuine reading slump, because I'm like, how am I supposed to move on with my life after reading such an incredible series? And I'm just done. I've read all of them, and I read like the 8th book or whatever. It wasn't necessarily great or good, really. I just read it because I wanted to be back in this world again. And now that I've read it, I understand why everyone says, I wish I could reread them too. It is a magical experience to go through this series. I am not even kidding you. You guys can even watch. Like, I did do a few Harry Potter videos. They're linked here. I'll link them down below. But I am telling you, I've never been so invested in a book series in my life besides Twilight and like the Hunger Games when I was a kid. And I didn't think that that magic was still out there. I thought I was too old. I thought I aged out of something like that, especially with Harry Potter, because when it came out, it was in the 90s and kids were reading them. And the fact that this series stood the test of time, not necessarily the author, but the series stood the test of time, is just so astounding. Like, wow, these books literally left my jaw on the floor. I still to this day think about them. And I read these back in February. And I'm like, I constantly think about them. I was telling my brother not too long ago, like, I kind of want to just reread the Harry Potter series for the fall. And I'm like, I can't do that. I need to read other books. But that's how hooked I am. It was just so good. And if you are one of the rare people who don't know the story, it follows this little boy. His name is Harry Potter. And he's basically orphaned and he lives with his aunt and uncle who don't treat him well at all, until one day he gets a letter in the mail and it says that he's a wizard. And he just follows that story from there, and he figures out what his true destiny is, what his true family was like. He makes friends along the way. He grows, he evolves. He's so brave. These kids, I'm trying not to get into it too much, but these kids were so brave, so honorable, funny, annoying, just real kids. I felt like I grew up with them. Like from 11-year-old on, like I felt like these were my friends. It was so hard to leave that world behind. And oh my gosh, I wish every week, I think, that I could just reread that series for the first time, like have my memory wiped and read that series again, because it was just so wonderful. It was so good. The next two books that I'm going to mention are books that I literally mention all the time. So I'm not going to just annoy you with saying them over and over again. So I'm not going to give too much detail, but I am telling you, I mention them over and over again for a reason. These books are incredible. There are two books that I read last year that I raved about last year too. So we're bringing them up again. And the first one is Hail Mary. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hail Mary. I literally still think about this book all the time. Just the insane adventure you went on. I literally felt like I was in the book. I see it on my shelf sometimes and I'm like, I miss you. I miss you. Do you miss me the way that I miss you? Like, that's how in love with this book I am. And it follows like this astronaut who wakes up randomly. He doesn't really know where he is or why he's there. And then slowly but surely he gains his memory and realizes he's the only person who can save the entire planet. And I can't give you much more information from there, but it's a pretty daunting task. Outside of the fact that he has to save the world, it's like a really hard situation that he's in. And so from there, you follow him get his memory back. He's a scientist, so he knows how to do the calculations, the math, the science that he needs to try to get to this end goal. And there's so many ups and downs. There's so many times where you're like, oh my God, I don't know what's gonna happen. You're afraid for him. There's humor in it, so you're laughing. And he flashes back to his life back on Earth too. So you get so many different points of views and you just get a full scope of the gravity of the situation. And I am telling you, this book is an adventure. It is so good. I think about it all the time, genuinely. And even if you're not a science person, it's one of those sci-fi books that you can read and understand because the author gave you as much detail as you needed to follow it. And I mention this all the time, but even my brother loved this book, and he doesn't read books for fun. He reads them for educational purposes. He doesn't like fiction necessarily, but even he thought that this book was absolutely incredible. So I am telling you, this is why I mention it all the time. It is such an incredible book. You need to read it. And last but not least, if you've been here for even a second, you know what the book is. You already know, and I just want to test it. Leave down below in the comments what you think the last book is, and I'll see if you really know me. Also, while you're down there, just like and subscribe. Now I'm gonna wait. Okay, you probably guessed it right. It is Elanor Olant is Completely Fine. Before you start fighting me, before you're upset that I keep mentioning this book, just remember, this book changed my life. It is so amazing. I literally can't rave about it enough. What do you want me to do? Lie to you? This is a book I want to reread, okay? So I can't make up another book for you. I have to tell you the truth. And if it's a book that I happen to repeat multiple times, at least you know I'm not lying. This book is so incredible. It is still top three books that I've read, and I read 50 something books last year. I think I read 57 books last year, and so far I've read 55 books this year, and still it's in my top 3. So I'm not lying to you. Now, this book follows Elanor Olant. She is a young woman in her late 20s, early 30s, I believe, and she's working at a company, just a very mundane life. She doesn't have any friends, she doesn't make any friends, and she doesn't want to. She likes the routine of her life. But that is until she makes a friend at work who slowly starts to help her get out of her shell, and she grows and evolves, and you just hear about her her very traumatic childhood, and you try to see her work through it as well. But during the meantime, she's also obsessed with this musician who she knows nothing about. She just likes the idea of him, really. And you see her work through that obsession simultaneously with working through her childhood trauma and growing as an individual. And this book is a great way of giving you hard life lessons while giving you some humor with it as well. And I am telling you, if you don't listen to anything else from me, read Hail Mary and Elanor Olant is completely fine. Those two books are in my holy grail of just the most amazing books out there, I believe. And I'm not going to yap about her anymore. Just know that she has my heart. I love her so much. I think about her often. That is why she's in the front of my bookshelf, and she always will be, because it's one of those books that I literally think about all the time. All right, I'm going to stop yapping. Let me know some of the books that you would love to reread down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.